Okay, welcome to episode 23 of the Tossing Salad Podcast. I am Brian Simatros, your host, and people are finally, they're starting to say the quiet part out loud with regards to what we're doing here on the Tossing Salad Podcast. What the hell is going on? Are we still doing a podcast? What is this Brian and Chelsea make a podcast? Where is the Tossing Salad Podcast? Are you still doing shows? Are you interviewing people still? Talked a little bit about it in the last podcast release. And so let me try to clarify. And this is all my fault, to be honest with you, because I'm not doing a really good job in basically describing what we're trying to do here. My problem, well, the thing I'm good at is jumping in to a pool of creativity and just going about doing something. But describing what I'm doing and telling people what's going on, I'm just not very good at it. So here's the thing. Tossing Salad Podcast is very much alive and well and having a lot of fun. Also, if you guys had noticed, if you follow Tossing Salad Podcast on YouTube, which is where we host most of our videos, right? That you guys can watch and listen along. I'm also doing a show with my friend Chelsea. Brian and Chelsea make a podcast. That one is under the Tossing Salad Podcast umbrella. Tossing Salad Podcast presents Brian and Chelsea make a podcast. That one there is kind of a trial show. It's live show, which I know it's confusing because people are like, wait a minute. Brian and Chelsea make a podcast, but it's a live show. It's 24 episodes of us doing lives and trying to come up with show ideas for a podcast. So at the end of the 24 episodes that we do, Chelsea and I will decide if we're going to continue doing this project together, or basically just say, look, that was a fun ride. We had a great time. And then we just kind of package it up and put it up on a shelf. The thing that I've had a hard time in efficiently using my editing time is doing two different projects at once. I found very quickly that as much fun as Chelsea and I were having on our show, which I think we're on like episode 10 or 11 going on this week. So we're doing pretty good. We're doing essentially 2 episodes a week. We're doing a regular what I'm calling like a performance episode for the weekend, to where we actually do a show idea. And then we have a midweek show, which is kind of a production show where we go over what we did in the last show to say, hey, what did you think? How did it go? And then we plan for the next show. It's basically pulling the curtain behind working with somebody else, creating a show. You guys get to see us create something from the very beginning. The problem is I can't efficiently use my time to do both the Tossing Salad Podcast and do those interviews and get those cut and edited, as well as doing the 2 shows a week with Chelsea on the Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast. This week was a little different though. I was able to squeeze an interview with again, this is the guy that started it all with me. My very first interview on Tossing Salad Podcast. Andre Seaside Garden from up in New York came on the show this week, and we had a great time. Talked about a lot of different things, but the important thing here is that it was all within like 50 minutes. It's the first show I think I've done that I've come in under the 1 hour mark that I've been trying to do for all of these shows. Really good show. Hope you guys enjoy it. This guy makes it so easy to do an interview, to do a podcast. All right, he's a man that goes by many different names. Seaside Garden. Some people may know him as Andre, Mr. Compost, Mr. Lawn Guy.
Mr. Lawn Guy.
Mr. Diasper, if you remember our episode. Andre, how are you today?
Brian, thanks so much for having me on again, man. I've been enjoying the podcast. I got to say shout out to Chelsea. I hope you're. I hope when you catch this, hey, listen, you guys have been great. It's been fantastic. We are. We're here. It is springtime in New York. The sun is shining. It's 49 degrees outside, but it's warm in here. And I'm excited. I'm excited for another grow season.
This is one of those things to where out of the blue, I contact Andre and I'm like, and I'm literally on my riding lawnmower and I'm like, you know what? I have some time this afternoon. I wonder, it's like spinning a roulette wheel. I wonder if Andre is going to be free this afternoon for like an hour.
Yeah.
And I sent you that message literally on a hill. I put it in park and I said, hey, do you by chance have any time this afternoon to knock out a podcast? And you were like, sure.
Yeah.
You're always just like helping me out every which way.
Listen, I'm always down, the garden fam, and I hope I don't jinx this, but I have yet to have a bad experience with a member of the garden fam. It's something about the Instagram gardening community. And I look, some of the members are like really manic, but it's still been positive. Even in the manic experiences, it's still been positive. So
well,
anytime Ryan and guys come
I
up.
hope you don't jinx it also. So we've been going at a pretty good clip. And if people remember when we started this podcast journey of the Tossing Salad podcast well over 6 months ago, our very first episode with Mr. Andre here, very first episode, the man who will pick me up whenever I need it and help me on whatever project I need on. And he was my very first guest on this podcast.
Thank you, big guy.
And things are a little different now. I mean, my setup's a little different. It's a little more streamlined. I wouldn't say it's perfect yet. And, as with most things that we play with in life, there's always things that we can improve on and things that we're working out. But it shouldn't be so manic this time around on my end with the software. I finally got that kind of worked out and my recording gear, the lights and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I need to revisit that very first episode.
Oh, man.
Because
your New York visit.
The New York visit, we talked about a lot of stuff. And unfortunately for that podcast, fortunately, we talked for forever. It was like 3 hours. You and I sat down, which isn't technically what you're supposed to do on podcasts that are supposed to last about an hour. But we went over a whole bunch of stuff and we were just sitting there having a good time. And I feel bad because I told you this. I lost an hour of our recording.
Yeah. Well, now that just became like quality time we spent together. That's it. In the ethos, it goes. So
before we get into some catching up or whatever, I do have kind of a personal question I want to run by you.
Okay.
Now you're a single dad, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you mind if a friend of yours, were to submit your name to a show like Love is Blind?
Oh, wow. So I watched Love is Blind.
Can I throw that out there that I have thought of some of my friends, my single dad friends that I know, and you come up several times in my head where I'm like, this guy, he'd be a pretty good catch on a show like this. What do you think?
I don't know.
Would you go on a show like that?
It's, you're out there. I don't know. It's weird, right? Because like you're out there when you go on that show, America, and maybe a little more is like, we all are watching. And I guess the scary part for me would be, fumbling in some kind of weird garden dorkiness and someone just being like, what? and just being frozen in that.
Of the show like that, and I think they mentioned it on the reunion show this past weekend, is that everybody that goes on there, everybody kind of does something stupid or whatever, but we all accept that because you're on a show and you have cameras following you around. I'm just kind of curious if my friend from Long Island, New York, would you be up for doing a show like that?
Would I?
Seriously?
You know?
Because I think
Yeah.
you would be a
I-
fantastic person to follow on something like that. I think you're a really just an
oh,
awesome
thanks,
guy,
big guy. Thanks.
and I think
That's
you're a great friend. You're a fantastic father. I've said that before, and I
oh,
said that on our first podcast. But I think you'd be a pretty good like boyfriend fiance. I'm not, if I
listen.
if I was if I was looking for a guy, I mean, you'd be right there on my top of my list of all the things I know about you.
Oh,
But
thanks, big guy.
would you go on a show like that?
Would I go on a show like that? I think my answer would have to be yes. I would try it out. And, why not? I would definitely have to work out that schedule because I think you're away for a little while when you do it. But
You're
yeah,
finding
right.
love. You're finding
It's
love, man.
it's there. But I will throw. So yes is my answer. My caveat would be, I would hope that they would put someone on there that would be a little bit more on my. I'm not looking to walk around with charcuterie boards and golden goblets. Like that's not my thing. Hopefully there's a gardener on there, and it's like,
Well,
hey,
they it's Netflix, right? They know
yeah,
how to produce a show, and I'm sure that they have their list of people that are going to be on, and they know how to match people up on certain things that would kind of match up with
yeah,
certain cast members or whatever. And I've always, I'm kind of selfish on this because one, I love the show. Number two, I love you, and I think you would be a fantastic person on there. But I got to find out if this is a real show or not, or if this is just kind of fake. I don't know.
Well, I know that one of the people on there, I can't remember her name, but she got with it was like an African doctor guy, and they went all the way to the proposal for marriage part at the end, and he turned her down. And I later found out from friends that she's like a YouTube fitness celebrity and that she had been talking in her YouTube stuff about like, oh, like kind of a conversation like we're having. And she ended up going from talking about it in her YouTube channel to being in the show doing it. And I was kind of like, oh, that's a little interesting. But that's the only person I've heard of in that show where that was the setup. They were kind of already a celebrity and then they ended up in. But there's another one, Married at First Sight, that
Yep, I watched
is
that.
the idea of I think you meet at the altar and you go through it. And I'll tell you what, in watching both of those shows, I feel like I learn so much about the conflicts you have in relationships,
Sure.
and it's super cool to look at it in that very like separated manner like, oh, I think what she's asking for is just for you to listen a little bit more, and if you did that, I think she'd be willing to compromise with that. But when the conflict isn't so separated, it can be hard to see it that clearly. But yeah, I get it. I think anyone in a relationship or that's been in a relationship can watch these shows and relate to them and pick up things from them.
Do you feel that on a show like let's specifically talk Love is Blind because it
Hmm.
just ended this weekend, and you just I had no idea that you watched it.
Oh yeah,
But it's
yeah.
just
It's popular, man.
it's funny that you do. Uh, do you think that it is possible that the premise of that show that you would be able to fall in love with somebody that you can only talk between the walls of your own pod. You don't see each other. I'm a little pessimistic on this in a sense that I would love to say love is blind and a lot of it has to do with the insides, what that person is on the inside. I get it, but I think there's an equal 50-50 at the least to where you have to be physically attracted to the other person. And the thing with the premise of the show is this is where it's not truly Love is Blind because you know that they're not going to cast really, really unattractive, physically unattractive people, which I think would be the best show. I think they should have more everyday type
Yeah.
people that you would see at, let's say, when I go to when
Yard
I get my
sales, flea
yard
market,
sales, or
Walmart.
I go to Walmart, and
Walmart.
the first 50 people I see in Walmart, let's take those people and have a Love is Blind show. But you know what I'm saying? You
Yes.
know that they're not going to that the other person is going to be at least probably a 5 or higher on a scale of physical attractiveness. What do you think?
That is a really good point. I do think there's some safety in that. You're like, hey, but yeah, no, I agree. And I'd have to say, as far as is the concept of Love is Blind, 100%, I would go. Um, I don't know if Love is Blind. I think Love might be, might might not be completely based on the physical there, but there is that moment where they come out of the box and they see each other, and there's got to be something there.
Right.
It's in between. Love is Blind, great show, great concept, but I think we've all seen when they meet, that's when we really find out what's going to happen. Is love really blind after they meet, after they make that initial connection?
That's the best. That's one of the best parts of the show is you're waiting for them to do the reveal where
Yeah.
the
Yep.
door opens up and they see each other, and I am glued to my TV because I am reading their faces, and usually it has gone pretty good. And then there's been a couple people on there to where you can just tell that they were not there. And there was
Oh,
a
yeah.
particular one this past season too, to where she said that when she saw him, she was like, she wanted to turn and run. But
Oh.
so what would you be more nervous about? What they physically when they saw you or when you saw her? Like if you were on the show, what would be the part of the reveal that you would be more nervous about? And I'm going to ask Chelsea this also on our show. Chelsea
Yeah.
and I have Brian and Chelsea make a podcast. It's kind of an offshoot presented by the Tossing Salad Podcast.
Yeah.
And our next episode is supposed to be all Love is Blind to go over the season. So I'll ask her the same question I'm going to ask you right now. Would you be more nervous about what they think of you when that door opens, or would you be more concerned with what you're seeing?
So I would definitely be more concerned with what they're seeing, only because, Brian, my entire life, I have experienced having phone conversations with people and then meeting them and them going, "Oh my God, that you're just not who I thought you would be." My entire life. So that would, that's writing on my mind.
All right, can you expand on that just a little bit? Because obviously, if anybody's
Right.
listening to this conversation on the podcast right now, they would be pissed if I didn't follow up on that right there. That right there is what they want to know.
I have definitely gotten the I'll give you the perfect example. I was doing life insurance.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd been speaking to this guy for probably we had like 3 phone appointments, each of them a minimum of 45 minutes.
Mhm.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be in a regional office that's close to you. If you want to come in, you don't have to do the digital signing. You can just sign the papers all in person, one shot." And I went, "Absolutely. Garden City, couple minutes away. I'm going to stop by and do it." I walk into the room and I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing? Andre Coburn, nice to meet you." And he's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And he just pauses. And in that pause, I'm like, "What's the matter?" And he goes, I thought you would be, a white guy." And I went, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "I also thought for some reason you'd be taller and maybe, I don't know, gray hair." And I'm like, "Wow, that's not me." He goes, "Oh, I go, and if I had $1 for every time it's happened to me, I'd have at least $20 where people have met the talking point and then the in person. You remember, well, now the world's a little different, but a couple of years ago, those conference call phones were super popular,
Mhm.
and I was working in Arlington, Virginia, and we did conference calls all the time. And then we would go to the offices of different people who were hosting these calls. And I'd walk in and they'd be like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Andre Coburn." And they, "Oh, you're Andre Coburn." I'm like, "Wow, this is a real thing, huh?" So I definitely feel like in Love is Blind, talking to someone through the wall, they would just have this picture. And I don't know. In fact, maybe with this very podcast, Brian, someone is going to be like, "Wait, what does this guy look like?" And they're
What,
going to go to this video.
Andre, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's why I have to
Me.
have video with my podcast. If everybody were just to listen to this as a podcast, they'd be like, "Is Andre this white guy, or what is he?"
Yeah.
Now with my video podcast, they can go on YouTube and be like, "Well, that's what he looks like."
There he is. That's the guy. He's Andre from Seaside Garden. He's right here.
That is
No,
freaking hilarious.
so that's me. I would be more afraid of if they would like be shocked on the other end and be like, "Whoa," but that's
Does that cause any anxiety with you? Like, let's say if you know that you've only been in contact with somebody, whether it's in business or like dating,
Mhm.
and you've only been maybe talking on the phone or something, you guys visually haven't seen anybody. Is that something that even comes up to where somebody's just kind of nervous?
So, all right, I've done the online dating. We're going deep. I've done the online dating, and something I've picked up on very quickly in online dating is there is the idea of a internet profile, which is the best of you, or the you want to present. And then there is the person sitting, 12 inches across the table from you, and now it's time for the one-on-one human contact.
Sure.
And 100% of the time, there's a difference. I have never met someone who is the identical carbon copy of their profile. I
Right.
feel like part of the beauty of the Instagram world is with those lives happening. We kind of get to experience like, oh, okay, so this is that person, and then from there we can move on. Sometimes you go into a live and you just watch and you're like, oh, this is what's
Sure.
happening there. Even in TikTok, right? There's like the TikTok cheeky version, and then sometimes you switch over to Instagram and you see the longer expressed version of a person. You're like, oh, this is what they're about. Then you go to YouTube and now you're watching the 30-minute clip of them doing something and you're like, oh, wow, like they're this way, or they really lean more this way. And that's been my experience. So I'm no expert on online dating. I do think it's a bit of a numbers game. If you set yourself up on 100 dates, then 5 of them should be great and 90 of them will be crap, or whatever it is. But there is this is 2023. There's the online version of everyone, and then the in person.
This is probably all anybody wants to listen to now at this point for this podcast is Andre's experience with online dating. And I will say we will touch on this. There has to be another episode that we will do together to where I want to get some more info on this. But before I forget, and I'm just guessing from what you're saying, do you have pictures on your online dating profile on whatever app or whatever it is that you use? Are you like tossing compost or down in your lawn?
Yes, I am.
Are you giving a signal as to this is stuff that I'm kind of involved with?
So the answer to that, Brian, would be in the original profile, no. I did the whole one of you like on the side of a mountain, one of you with your shirt off at a beach, one of you at work looking sternly, so which is the one that got the most likes, by the way. Me in uniform with the dog, people are like, yeah,
the
like
dog.
That
That's a good one. You always have to do it with a dog. That gets you bonus points.
But I very quickly realized that and this might just be like a life thing, right? When you're hitting the 40 club, you become a little more realistic, and you're like,
Sure.
wait, I don't want someone that thinks all I do all day is run around on the beach and take profile pictures with my shirt off. I'd much rather meet someone who sees the big gardening hat and me pulling potatoes out of the ground and
Sure.
goes, hey, I want to hang out with that guy, because that's going to be, at least for me, the most honest, right? If you like that, then we can always dress up and go out to dinner. And I love jazz music, and going into the city to a jazz club for a wonderful night is fantastic. But I want someone who, is also like, hey, see all this stuff behind me? Oh, you spent 2 hours reseeding, repotting that tray. Like, oh, okay, I'm with that, because that's just going to be a better place for us to start off.
You know what I think would be a really hot picture right now is if you took a screen grab of you with the headphones doing a podcast on the Tossing Salad Podcast in your new grow room. And because women are going to see that. Women will see that and be like, this guy is interesting. What is he doing?
Guy, he's got
not
a grow
playing
room.
video games. He's doing a podcast, and he likes
he's doing
plants.
A podcast, and he likes plants, and he has dogs. I have 2 dogs at the moment. I am sitting another canine officer, so I got 2 in there.
See, I think you got a lot going for you, and the fact that did you really have one up there without a shirt on?
Absolutely. You
okay.
have to have one on.
I don't know. How would I know?
Yeah, all right, that's true. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. You've got to have one with a shirt off, because it's like, remember our Love is Blind conversation a moment ago?
Well, yeah.
They want to size you up. They're like, wait, okay, he gardens, but does he have a dad bod? Is he carrying a keg under there? Is it a 6-pack? They want to know. So it's required. At least one beach photo.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that listen to this. My YouTube audience. So this is my analytic breakdown.
Yeah.
Between, let's say, Instagram and YouTube. TikTok,
okay.
I don't know if I've looked at it this closely on TikTok. YouTube is like 80% male of the people that follow me.
Wow. Okay.
So the male fans of the podcast are going to like some of the tips that you're bringing. And then on Instagram, it's completely reverse. It's 80% female.
Okay.
So when the females on Instagram hear and see this clip, I think you're going to get positivity, positive feedbacks on both sides, from the guys that are getting some tips on what they need to do if they're single and are on these dating apps. And then some of the women that are going to be listening to this that are in the garden community or something, will be like, this guy's a catch.
I just thought about this, Brian, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to get Brian's spillover into my Bumble profile. I'm going to get... That's going to be great. That's going to be great.
You want all sorts of people attracted to you. Just a big net. Bring a big net and bring them all in.
Look,
I think, again, and I'm not kidding about this. I mean, we're having some fun or whatever, but I mean, you and I have known each other for several years now.
Yeah.
And you are one of the most fun, supportive, just kind of a cool guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, thanks,
Somebody
Brian.
that is brings a smile to your face. Very easy to get along with. You're very, it seems like you're always, there's a little bit of extra effort and concern in you reaching out to other people and commenting or being supportive. And I think that sometimes that's hard to find. And I don't know necessarily hard to find just in people general, but hard to find also within the bro community.
Yeah.
In a sense that, you and I don't, of all the people that I'm closest to, that I keep up with the most, I mean, we don't converse on a daily or weekly basis other than maybe some comments on posts or something like that. But that's kind of how it is with most of my guy friends that I'm close with over, like, let's say the last 10, 15 years, and maybe a handful of these guys that we don't communicate very often, but when you throw us together on a random Wednesday at 1:30 to do a podcast, it's like nothing, there's no time has passed, and
Yeah,
you and
you
I
have
can
a good
have a great
time.
time, and then we can go weeks or months and not talk
Yeah.
to each other, and then it's no big deal. And I do you think that's a guy thing versus a girl thing?
No, I've realized that and I won't take too long on it, but so we've tapped on this in the past in other conversations, but I am a big supporter of people having a positive mental health. A good mental health is hard to establish. And I think I have learned that the time one invests in the anxiety of, um, did I stay connected enough, or did I say enough, or oh, I wonder if that person is mad because I didn't call them or did call them, or I forgot the birthday or remembered a birthday, or like all of that stuff. Um, a long time ago, I was having a conversation with someone and it started getting heated, and I went, "Hey, we're about to have an argument about the fact that you really wanted to see me and I really wanted to see you, and we didn't get to see each other,
Sure.
but we're actually seeing each other right now. So instead of having the argument about how we weren't able to see each other, we should enjoy the moment of seeing each other that we're having in this exact moment." And I've stayed, that has locked into the back of my brain as just a life lesson. Don't worry about the, hey, how are they doing? And you missed the birthday. And the, worry about the next time you see someone, being able to tell them how you feel, and how you've missed them, and how you, and now with the internet, we don't even have to wait that long, right? I can, oh man, I haven't spoken to my aunt in like 4 months. I can go online and be like, oh great, she's doing this, she's doing this, she's doing it. And then the next time I see her, I'm like, oh, I've seen all the great stuff you've been doing online, and I'm so happy you're here, and I really want to give you a hug before I don't see you again. And you move on from there. And I do want to throw on there, the other cap is, speaking honestly. And many years ago we had a conversation, and in the conversation you said something like, I don't want to go there, I don't want to see other people, I'm perfectly fine and here where I am. And I remember thinking like, wow, that is, I have, my ex has a very large family,
Hmm.
and I've learned that in many Latin families, the extended family, the extended family is very common. And I didn't grow up in that situation. I grew up in a very, I wouldn't say a small family. I have four brothers, but I grew up in a family that was kind of the same people all the time. And we didn't really have a bunch of cousins and cousins stopping in and all that. So there were a lot of times where I felt like I didn't want to go there, or I didn't want to see
Sure.
these people. I just wanted. So when you said that, I was like, man, that's so honest and so relatable. And I think those are the things. It's that connection of the honesty and dropping all that anxiousness and all that stuff behind you, and then you're able to just vibe with someone. And I think that's why we've been able to be friends. Is just not having that, hey, yeah, did you not see last week? And just being like, Brian, it's good to see you again. You're like, Andre, what's going on? And we take it from there.
It's very low key, this relationship you and I have as friends, and it's one that I don't have to worry about. The funny thing is, and
Yeah.
I just remembered the last episode with Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast, you came up
Mm-hmm.
in the episode in a sense that well, specifically because it was the basically we were talking about the do's and don'ts of social media, especially on Instagram.
Yes, I listened to this episode.
And my thing was, when I mentioned you, I said, you, I went to New York my first time last summer, and as much as I love this guy, you're a good dude, but I was like, you and I talked about this. I didn't really let you know I was there until I was kind of like down at the World Trade Center
Yeah,
Memorial,
yeah,
and just as a passing by, hey, if you're in the area,
yeah,
it'd be fun to do something, quick or whatever. And you're like, dude, I think you were off that day or something.
yeah,
And then you and I had a conversation about, there's no feeling compelled to having to let you know, like when I'm there. And I think we kind of joked around a
yeah.
little bit that if you come to St. Louis, by all means come to St. Louis, but don't feel like you need to get a hold of me or anything. But I'd love to know that you're here. And then if we get
Yeah,
together,
it
but
happens.
it's one of those things that I think it works well for me. And I think you pretty much, I feel like you could go either way, to where you
Yeah.
could reach out because you want to or whatever. And then if somebody doesn't, you don't take it personal. Like you wouldn't take it personal
Yeah,
on me.
no, it's Brian. You know what? And I know it's super cliche to be like, life is too short, but again, and maybe it's the same thing, the anxiety thing, where it's like, sure, I could go to St. Louis and then I could stress out about, oh, how am I going to see Brian? How do I make the dates work? And I really want to go to this theater and I want to see this and I want to eat this sandwich. And how do I make it? Or I could just be like, hey, wouldn't it be great if while I go to this theater or I go eat this sandwich, I could also see Brian? So if it doesn't work out, it's like, oh, next time. But this time I got at least the sandwich, or maybe I got,
Right.
like I'm not, I can't. I don't have enough brain power to stress out on like, the master plan. I just go with the flow, and what happens.
At least
happens.
it gives us something to talk about on a podcast too.
There you go.
You know?
There you go. But Brian, update me. So, because you've thrown out a couple of things like really quick. We've got the deer situation, which
Deer
has been like,
situation.
whoa. Then we've got you did an update on tossing the peppers, which I thought was freaking hilarious.
The overwintered pepper debacle. Yeah.
The overwinter pepper debacle. I know this morning it was the pollen is hitting you guys, and I went, boy, that's a situation. But
See, this guy keeps up. He keeps up with he's in the weeds, keeping up. He's got an eye on everything. He observes everything.
Yeah. There's you. I'm also like, I do every sing along video with Kate while she's singing. I'm singing along, and then
Sure.
the ever hopeful gardener keeps me on my toes because she does a million projects in one day.
All of them. Yep.
In one day, and I'm very jealous of her very shiny new compost build. But with you, I guess the thing I have to ask, because I'm a lawn guy, is you're rocking the clover lawn. So clover is coming in right now. Tell me about your clover lawn. Do people walk by and make faces? Do they throw orange peels at you?
Well,
What's going on?
This is something, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think on the outside of things, people like you and people like me aren't supposed to get along. You're a traditional lawn guy now, where you're given the tips on how to prepare the lawn, dethatching, and you're sharpening your blades, and you're showing everything for people to have that beautiful lawn.
That's right. Pre-emergents are going out right now. It's happening. Yeah.
And here I am asking my weeds and my lawn to emerge and rise. That's been interesting, because there is a huge cult of pro clover lawn people, and they hate like traditional lawn people. And I hope that if something comes positive out of you and I doing this podcast today, other than maybe some single woman looking for a fine young shirtless guy, that clover lawn people and traditional lawn people can get together. My lawn looks pretty good. It's I started the whole clover lawn, and I say clover lawn, it's more of a weed lawn, because I didn't really plant anything. I let whatever naturally is growing that wants to grow. I let that grow, and then just to fit in with my subdivision, just so that I'm not annoying people or making enemies or whatever, I keep it nice and trimmed.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that really financially, over the last 5 to 6 years, I was spending a few $100s every year to maintain this lawn, which, look, I appreciate a nice lawn, but I appreciate more having that money that would normally go there to go into my garden or to pay other bills or whatever. So it's not something to where I've taken on this uh, the flag of let's all plant clover lawn. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you remember last summer. So the New York Times came across one of my clover lawn stories. And so
Really?
they sent a photographer out, and I was in a New York Times article on clover lawns
I did
emerging.
not know that, Brian. That's freaking amazing.
Here I was saying that you're such a good friend keeping up, and now you miss my New York Times article.
You were in the New York Times.
Another link to my buddy here back in New York. And so I got a lot of exposure and a lot of questions from people that you could just kind of tell that they are like this, not warmongering clover lawn against the establishment and against all this stuff.
Ah.
And I'm kind of upfront with everybody. I'm like, look, I have a lazy weed lawn that I keep trimmed up, and whether you do it or not, that's totally up to you. I don't care. So if you're a pro lawn person, great. If you're not, great. I'll tell you the things that I'm doing. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you some of the benefits to doing what either I'm doing. But I mean, who doesn't like to have a nice lawn outside for the dogs, for the kids? Both my kids are teenagers right now, so there's not a lot of things that we do with them. But we do like playing like lawn darts, which the old jarts, the metal
Oh
spikes
yeah.
that they banned that you can't play anymore.
Yeah.
So we have a set of lawn jarts that we go outside and play. So it's nice to have a nice lawn, and I don't want to look like the shitty house on the street or in the neighborhood, and that's not my intent. So I keep it nice and neat, and throughout the spring and summer. The great thing about having a weed lawn that like I have is that there's just not one plant that's trying to survive out there. It ebbs and flows between
Yeah.
clover, chickweed. Sometimes the native grass tends to do better. And so whenever one struggles, the other one kind of picks up the pace,
Yeah.
as long as I have something green out there.
Yeah.
So that's the basis of what I'm doing here.
Look, I love it, man. So I manage three lawns. I have some property that I manage the lawn on. That's for profit, that I take care of that. Um, I manage a small public piece of property that absolutely no chemicals can be used on whatsoever, because that's just a town policy, no chemicals. So it is completely chem free. And then I have the garden around my home, Seaside Garden, where for me that is the model-esque, Northeast grass that I grow here, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the home of the Easter egg hunt that we just had.
Right.
Coming up next will be the garden party for all of the girls. My daughter and her little girlfriends will put on nice dresses, and they'll do the little garden party on the lawn space. And then we roll into the 4th of July summer party on the lawn. And then after the 4th of July comes the pumpkin, and then the October. We do an October egg hunt, which I know doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a Halloween egg hunt.
Sure. Yeah.
But also on the lawn space. And the reason I mention the clover lawn is so on two properties, I have clover mixed lawns going,
Mm-hmm.
where it's kind of the same idea. As long as I keep them cut low, they don't need as much watering. There's a lot more insect activity happening over there. I've got a lot more bumblebees and regular bees coming down and sucking on those little clover flowers
Yep.
and dandelions and stuff like that. Those are great in that space. And then I have the garden here at Seaside Garden where I have the events, and I'm always so happy to hear when you're talking about the benefits of the clover lawn, because it does feel like if I talk too loudly about enjoying this manicured lawn, they're gonna come after me. Like,
They will.
what's going on? And I've had just a few comments where people have commented like, "Oh, you're wasting land. You know, think of what you could grow there instead of grass and stuff like this." And I go, "Look, this is a space that I've designed to spend with my friends, my family, and the community. Um, some people have big like visiting centers. That's where they decide to meet people. Hey, I
Right.
think you could use that visiting center for a park, but you've decided to build a visiting center. I have my lawn space. That's where we hang out. I could use it for farming, but I use it to hang out with my friends and my family. So I kind of don't take it to heart. And maybe one day, hopefully, right, Val goes to college and I'm not having so many events. I can convert some of that to some more gardening space because I would like to maybe have a couple more raised beds and I'm getting a little bit more turned on to this idea of the homesteading. I want to get chickens this year. I think um, I've heard you talk about this briefly, but the idea of being able to, I think you and I both have gardens right now where we can go out and maybe grab some stuff for lunch, and
Sure.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Or I don't have an asparagus alley, but I have an asparagus bed. That's always great to throw onto whatever dinner is. Like, oh, okay, I'll go get some asparagus and I bring that in. And now I'm at the point where I send my kid out to get it because I want her to have that feel of the garden
Yeah.
and pulling the asparagus and
Absolutely.
stuff. But the idea of maybe in the future, I don't know, growing something of enough quantity where it can be like, oh no, this is a staple replacing me going to the supermarket would be cool.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm glad to hear that you haven't gotten too much grief in something that you take pride and joy in, and something that you love doing for the
Thanks, big guy.
family and everything. That's part of the unwritten contract, I think, that a lot of us have when we put ourselves out there online, particularly like, if we're in the garden community, whatever community that you're in, and you showcase something that you do. In our case, it's kind of gardening. And I mean, sure enough, you do something, you put it out there, and it's a magnet sometimes for negativity to come and find you, and for people to come and say you shouldn't be doing it this way, you should be doing it that way. And that's a thing that I'm just like, ugh, it it happens. It happens a lot in the garden community. It happens in the lawn community. But right here again on the Tossing Salad podcast, we're seeing traditional lawn guy and cloverweed lawn guy coming together and having a fantastic conversation again midweek. I don't want to rush this, but I know that being a dad,
Yeah.
girl dad power to you, that you are having to meet somebody at a bus stop here shortly. So what I want to
Yeah.
do
Okay.
is one last question for you to wrap this up, and then I'm going to let you go
Okay.
so you can be there waiting for your little one. Explain and get us updated on the room that you're sitting in, because you were talking about this room and you showcased a little
Ah.
bit before, and it's looking great. So tell me a little bit about this room that you have set up that's in your background.
All right. So, in a weather zone, right? I like to say I'm like soft zone A, zone 7A, zone 7ish right here because we're in the cove on the southern shore of Long Island, sticking out from the state of New York. Our weather, it's a little bit different than mainland New York. So we've got like coastal stuff coming in. I get a lot of dew in the morning off of the water that hangs out here that gives us kind of like a little bit of a microclimate. We don't get as much snow as the rest of what's going on either on Long Island, New York, because of the same thing.
Mhm.
So all of that said, I still wanted to expand the growing season, and the way for me to do that was to change the growing room. So the last time we did a podcast together, we were in an office space downstairs, and
Right.
that office space used to be this room. So through some TikToks and some Instagram videos making fun of the process, I really took a page from some Netflix decluttering shows,
Yeah.
some help from my mom who came in and said, throw it away.
Sure.
uh, and I went through this space and I kind of went on the principle of, if I haven't needed it in the last 3 years, I don't need it. Um, if it's very important, but I can take a photo of it and save it electronically, I did that. And last but not least, if you've got kids, then they have all this cute stuff, the artwork, the a photo of it really can be just as valuable as having 17 folders of
Sure.
papers stuck to sticks with noodles and all of that. So I did a lot of that. I took a lot of photos of artwork and I went, hey, I really value that you took time and made this, and it'll always be important to me. That's why I'm taking a picture of it. That's why I'm taking a picture of you holding it, so that I'll have that picture, and we're going to go ahead and throw this
Compost.
away so that it's all right. Well, the paper I can, right? So that it's we decluttered.
Yeah.
So I decluttered, and woof, that felt really good. And then now in the space, because I'm now doing this podcast from the plant room, I can kind of move around a little bit. I don't know if I'll be able to zoom in, but what we have are the first few seedling trays are here with the lights. I do have the table up with some other plants, and then let's see if I can raise this tripod up. Everything's still working and connected. There is another area back there that's a work area, so I can actually do my potting,
Sure.
seed sowing, and setup. And I'm right under the window there, which is great. This whole room gets this. This is, you get the natural light coming in, and it's serving the purpose of it's a great plant space, and it's a great human space. The air in here feels good. The humidity feels good. The plants are happy. And as usual, I get emotional and nerdy with you at the end of these things. And I'll tell you, there was recently a study that was talking about how plants make noises. And they used all of these special microphones to listen to plants. And they played the sound amplified of a tomato plant. And it was doing kind of like this. And I was like, I'm a fond believer. This is where I get all weird. I'm a fond believer, right, that we know that nuclear elements give off all of this energy that can be harmful and cancerous and hurt us. I think if we're willing to accept that science, we should be willing to accept that plants may not give off enough energy to immediately give us cancer or affect us like something nuclear might. But maybe they give off just a little bit of energy that helps us get through our day, or makes our life a little better, or lets us heal for some pain we're going through, or lets us get over losing a family member, or lets us feel a little bit stronger when we're feeling a little defeated. So whatever it is, I think the best purpose of the plant room has been for some mental and physical health. It's been an improvement, and I'm enjoying it.
I'm kind of looking at that room, and I don't remember my schooling too much. It's either a metaphor or a simile, but that plant room is kind of representative of your headspace, like inside Andre's head. And you've done a lot of cleaning out and organizing, and seems like you've got some things kind of going on there to kind of give you some joy. And I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to talk to you again. Let's talk about how much of what you just said goes into your dating app, because I'm not sure if that's going to turn people on or off, but it might turn the right garden people on. So maybe on some accounts we'll include what you just said. But I love you, man. You are a positive beacon out there. I appreciate you being my friend. I appreciate you spur of the moment in saying, yeah, I'll do a podcast last minute, and then you're throwing things together.
Right. Listen, big hearts going out to you, big guy. And I want everybody to know, if you're not listening already, you need to check out the Tossing Salad Podcast. It has the New York Times acclaimed Brian in it.
It does. It does do that. And I'm gonna keep my promise from the beginning now. Now that you said it's okay, that you wouldn't mind going on Love is Blind, I'm going to submit your name as a potential castmate. And I'm going to be curious to see if there's anybody else that knows you within our garden community that would agree with that.
Oh boy.
And help me get you on the show. And then we would have watch parties.
Thanks, Brian.
And then you would bring your new wife onto the Tossing Salad Podcast in a couple of years for a reunion show.
That's right. Where it all started.
All right, so we are going to bring this to a close. Andre, thank you again. I want you to get to that bus stop on time. All right, what did you guys think of that episode? I hope you guys enjoyed it. Here's the thing. We're still trying to build up the Tossing Salad brand, trying to build up the Tossing Salad channels. And if you guys can help out, again, I am not going to be asking for money or anything, at least not yet. But here's how you can support the channel and help us get out there, continue to do these interviews. Find us, Tossing Salad Podcast, on YouTube, TikTok, while it's still here, and Instagram. Give us a follow. It's free and it really helps the channel out. You guys, I really appreciate you guys downloading the show, listening to it, watching all the clips, putting in all the reviews. I love it. You guys, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.